Well, the global shea butter market is expected to grow in a CAGR of 4.8% over the forecast period from 2019 to 2025. And what factors are likely to drive this growth? Let's talk to Aisat Dahoud, one of the research analysts with Financial Derivatives Company. Good afternoon, Aisat.
Good afternoon, Chimese.
Well, I said there is a growing demand for shea butter in the global market. What are the major factors responsible for this?
Globally, shea butter is known as the woman's gold. It's called women's gold. And globally, the shea butter market is valued at $1.1 billion, growing at a cumulative aggregate growth rate of 6.6%. Is set to be valued at $3.9 billion as of 2025. So the major factors that are responsible for this growing demand is, one, the increasing awareness in consumer use, because now everybody knows you can use shea butter for a lot of things. Aside the increasing awareness, we also have regulatory mandates. Recently in the European Union mandated the use of 5% shea butter in the use of manufacturing of chocolates in place of cocoa butter, because recently there was an increased price surge in cocoa butter because of the rising consumption of chocolate. It increased the price of cocoa butter, and then it became less supplied. There was limited supply of cocoa butter. So in order to alternate or substitute cocoa butter, European Union mandated the use of shea butter, 5% of that, in the manufacturing of chocolate. Also in the US, there's a mandate to use shea butter just for cosmetics, and everybody now knows like cosmetic has taken over the rising demand for shea butter. Also, the increasing demand for other manufacture of cosmetics, food and beverage industry, even the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry now use shea butter. They process shea butter in order to solidify and then produce tablets and capsules. So all of this multifunctional use of shea butter, shea nut, has really grown the demand for shea butter.
Now, Nigeria is the world's largest producer of shea butter, producing approximately 425,000 tons. That's valued at about $531 million. Now, what can be done to improve the industry to harness the growing demand?
Currently, the industry in Nigeria is at its infancy, and they're really taking steps to take this industry to another stage. That is the life cycle from infancy, from birth to the maturity stage, to maximize output. So currently in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Institute for Palm Oil Research. They've come up with a new seed for growing shea butter that you can germinate within 5 to 7 years. Because on a normal basis, the seeds takes 20 years to germinate, and its lifespan lasts for as long as 200 years. So now if we have the seed that gestates for 5 to 7 years, that's going to help us increase production. So what the government needs to do now that we have a seed that can germinate within a short period of time, we need the government to come into this industry and, first of all, create policies that would help preserve shea trees. Because shea trees are used to provide charcoals. They burn them, they cut them down and burn them, and they use it to provide charcoal. So in the next 2 to 3 years, if this government does not come in to put in policies to preserve the shea trees, the shea tree are going to go into extinction and won't be able to have shea nuts available for export, available for trade. We also need the government to come in to preserve areas, especially in the northern areas, where we can have plantations, we can have large areas for plantation, because naturally, as I speak to you now, people pick shea nut seeds, shea nuts on the wild, because it grows in the wild in the northern part of Nigeria. There's not a particular plantation where we say we have shea butter plantation, like we have the plantain plantation, like we have the palm oil plantation. We don't have any current plantation that we can point at that this is specifically for shea butter. So we need stuff like this in order to grow this industry. And we also need to synthesize and then, create conference, expose, where we can link these different players in these value chains, right from the collectors to the refiners, where we can link them all together in order to get proper care, in order for them to get the proper steps towards producing quality shea butter. Because the process and the method in the eating process, the cracking process, the grinding process. So if you overeat it or if you grind it too much, it's going to lose quality. And if you lose quality and then you take it to the foreign market, if you're not complete in the global international market, the quality depends on how you bargain on your price. The higher the quality, the higher your price you can sell for in the global market. So with all these things I've listed, we need the government to come into place and put some measures for us to go and harness that growing demand.
Sure, Aisha, let's hope we get it right there. Thank you for your time. All right, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has secured about 200 billion rand of new investment pledges, saying these would spur economic growth and reduce unemployment. But foreign firms made few commitments. Analysts say some of the pledges include ordinary operating costs, and some had come from state-owned firms. They were also skeptical the commitments were of sufficient scale of meaningfully change the bleak economic outlook. Ramaphosa is trying to revive Africa's most industrialized economy after a decade of stagnation. And Ghana will revoke 4 petroleum exploration licenses from companies that are not developing the assets. The country's Deputy Minister for Petroleum, Mohammed Amin Adam, said the country will take aggressive action to ensure that its petroleum assets are developed. The licenses were identified for termination after a review of 14 license awards that were made in recent years. 4 of them are lined up for termination. However, the government has not yet notified the companies involved. And the foreign ministers of Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan have agreed to work towards resolving their dispute over the filling and operation of a massive dam project in Ethiopia by January 15, 2020. In a joint statement released after U.S. Treasury Stephen Mnuchin hosted talks to work out differences over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the ministers said they would attend further meetings in Washington on December 9 and January 13 to assess progress in their negotiations. Egypt fears the filling of the dam reservoir on the Blue Nile tributary will restrict already scarce supplies of water from the Nile. All right, let's get an update on today's trading activities at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Of course, the Osun State Governor is at the NSE to brief the traders and the investing public on the state of the Osun State. Well, Temple will unpack all of that for us. Hello, Temple. Good afternoon. So what did the government of Osun State tell the traders? And was that a market-moving event?
Well, it is going to be a market-moving event, but we need to wait to listen to the governor to know what direction he actually wants to engage these traders on. This is going to be similar to what the Ekiti State government did a few months ago when the governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, actually met with the traders here on the floor of the stock exchange and, of course, briefed them regarding the state of the economy. He talked about the fact then that the state is done with the debt settlement that they engaged in some few years ago. I think what the Osun State governor will be doing at this point is also similar to that. All of these state governments are beginning to scramble for capital, scramble for liquidity in the states because, as we know, Nigeria's mainstay has now hit the floors. So there might be some kind of a public-private partnership eventually. Perhaps there will be some kind of partnership with some listed companies on the floor of the stock exchange to see how they could channel investments to the state of Osun. That's the expectation around here, Chimezi.
All right, Temple, I'm sure you're eager to go and listen to what the governor has to say and, of course, update us on the news. Well, that's a wrap on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimezi Obi Iwago.